Level 1, the Forgotten Palace. You are not sent to a place of honor. You are sent to the palace everyone forgets. Before sunrise, you follow an old servant through the eastern side of the royal compound, where the stone path is damp, the lanterns are dying, and the air smells of wet wood, incense ash, and cold tea left too long in porcelain cups. The main halls glow in the distance, bright with gold roofs and red pillars, but you do not walk toward them. You are led farther away, past the busy courtyards, past the chambers where favored women wake behind silk curtains, toward a quiet residence near the outer wall. This is where the third princess lives. No one says her title with fear. That is the first thing you notice. At the gates of powerful women, servants lower their heads quickly. Guards stand straighter. Court ladies move as if every breath might be judged. But here, the guards lean against the pillars. The maids walk slowly. One young attendant even smiles behind her sleeve when the old servant tells you this is your new post. You will serve Her Highness here, he says, as if he is apologizing. You understand the message. You have not been promoted. You have been placed where ambition goes to die. The courtyard is clean but too quiet. The curtains are faded but carefully tied. The flower pots are old, yet every dead leaf has been removed. Nothing here looks rich. Nothing looks careless either. Then you see her. The princess stands near the open window in pale silk, holding a book in one hand. She has no crowd of attendants, no heavy jewels, no ministers waiting outside her door. She looks almost harmless. Almost. Because when two court ladies pass the gate and laugh softly at her name, she does not lower her eyes. She only turns one page. Slowly. As if she has just added their voices to a list she has been keeping for years. And for the first time, you wonder if the most forgotten palace in the royal compound is not empty of power. Maybe it is hiding it. Level 2, no one fears her. By the second day, you understand why the servants move slowly in the third princess's palace. Nothing urgent is expected to happen here. No ministers rush through the gate. No generals wait in the courtyard. No expensive gifts arrive from noble families hoping to win favor. The residence feels like a room the royal family has closed but not emptied. Your work is simple: carry tea, sweep the side corridor, refill the inkstone, keep the bronze mirror polished, and stand quietly when Her Highness reads near the window. At first, you think she does not notice anything. She barely speaks. She wears pale silk without bright embroidery. Her hair is pinned with one simple jade ornament. When court ladies from the main palace pass by, they bow just low enough to obey etiquette, then smile as soon as they turn away. One of them says, softly but not softly enough, even her servants look forgotten. Another answers, at least he will have an easy life. Nothing happens around that one. Your hands tighten around the tea tray, but the princess does not react. She only lifts her cup, breathes in the steam, and asks you to place fresh paper on the writing table. Later, when the room is empty, you notice something strange. On the table beside her books, she has written names. Not poems. Not prayers. Names. The two court ladies from the corridor. The old servant who apologized when you arrived. A minister who passed her without greeting. A cousin who laughed during last month's banquet. Beside each name is one short detail: who they serve, who they fear, who they flatter, who they avoid. You look away quickly, but she sees you. Do not worry, she says. I am not offended. Her voice is calm. Too calm. Offense is loud. I prefer memory. Then she closes the book and looks at you through the reflection of the bronze mirror. People are careless around someone they do not fear. That is why being underestimated is useful. Outside, the same court ladies laugh again in the corridor. This time, when you hear them, the sound feels different. Less like mockery. More like evidence. Level 3, the servant who notices. On the fifth night, rain begins to fall against the old roof of the forgotten palace, soft enough that most servants sleep through it, steady enough to cover small sounds. You are sent to replace the candles in the princess's reading room, carrying a tray with both hands and keeping your eyes low. The room smells of paper, wet wood, and ink that has dried too many times under the same flame. Her Highness is not there at first. Only the bronze mirror, the writing desk, and a stack of folded papers tied with pale thread. You should replace the candles and leave. That is what a good servant does. But then you see one page left open beneath the lamp. It is not a poem. It is a map of the palace hierarchy written in names. Senior court ladies. Minor ministers. Favored concubines. Distant cousins. Personal servants. Gate guards. Even kitchen runners. Lines connect them like roads through a city no one else can see. Beside one minister's name, she has written, fears exposure. Beside one court lady, loyal only when watched. Beside her cousin's name, laughs before lying. Your mouth goes dry. This is not bitterness. This is study. You hear a soft sound behind you and turn too quickly. The princess stands in the doorway, her pale robe almost blending with the rain-gray light. She looks at the open page, then at you. You drop your gaze, ready to apologize, ready to beg, ready to be sent away. Instead, she walks to the table and calmly closes the book. Most people think power begins with orders, she says. It does not. It begins with attention. You do not answer. She moves past you to the bronze mirror and adjusts one loose pin in her hair. In the reflection, her eyes meet yours. You noticed the book, she says. That means you notice more than you should. Your hands tighten around the candle tray. Should I forget what I saw? She almost smiles. No. I have enough people around me pretending not to see. I need one who sees clearly and knows when to stay silent. Outside, thunder rolls over the palace wall. For the first time, serving her no longer feels like punishment. It feels like the beginning of a secret. Level 4, her first lesson the next morning, the princess gives you a task so small it almost insults your fear. She asks you to place a tea tray in the western reception room before the third bell, not on the center table where guests expect it, but on the side stand near the blue curtain. No explanation. No sealed letter. No dangerous object hidden under silk. Just tea, porcelain cups, and a position changed by the width of a room. You carry the tray through the quiet corridor, wondering if this is a test of obedience or a joke played on a servant who saw too much. The western reception room smells of polished wood and old incense. Sunlight slips through the carved screens in thin gold lines. You place the tray exactly where she told you, then step back into the shadow by the door. Soon, 2 court ladies enter with a minor noblewoman from the Queen's circle. They speak lightly at first, laughing about fabric, weather, and the poor condition of the third princess's residence. Then one court lady reaches automatically toward the center table for tea and finds nothing there. Her hand pauses. Her eyes move to the blue curtain. For half a breath, her face changes. Not confusion. Recognition. She knows that side stand. She knows why someone would place tea there. The noblewoman does not notice, but you do. The court lady quickly recovers and says, "How careless. Even the servants here forget where tea belongs." Later, when you report nothing, the princess asks only one question. Which one looked at the curtain first? You answer before thinking. The taller court lady, with the silver comb. The princess nods, as if a door has opened somewhere. Then she has been here before. Your skin turns cold. In this room? At night, she says. When no guest should come. She takes the empty cup from the tray and turns it slowly in her hand. A careless person shows anger. A guilty person corrects the room in their mind before anyone else understands what is wrong. That is your first lesson. In the palace, a misplaced cup can reveal a hidden path, a false servant, an old betrayal. You thought she had no power because no one feared her. Now you begin to understand. She is not trying to force fear into the room. She is waiting for fear to reveal itself. Level 5, the names she remembers. After that morning, your work changes without anyone announcing it. You still carry tea, sweep the corridor, refill the inkstone, and lower your head when higher servants pass, but now every ordinary task has another purpose. When you walk behind the princess at a small afternoon gathering, you listen for names. When you wait outside the embroidery room, you notice who stops speaking when a certain minister's wife enters. When you carry old books back to the side library, you remember which court lady asks too casually whether Her Highness reads military histories or poetry. At night, you return to the forgotten palace and repeat what you heard while the princess sits by the writing table with a calm face and a fresh sheet of paper. She never writes quickly. That unsettles you most. Anger would scratch the brush across the page. Humiliation would make the ink shake. But her hand is steady as she adds each name to her quiet map. The woman with the silver comb. The cousin who laughs before lying. The eunuch who bows too deeply to the queen's attendants. The young maid who pretends to be foolish but remembers every locked drawer in the northern hall. You begin to understand that she is not collecting insults. She is collecting patterns. One evening, you mention a minor official who mocked the worn curtains in her palace. The princess pauses. Did he look at the curtains before or after he mentioned them? You frown, thinking back. Before. Then someone told him to look. She writes his name under a different column. You feel a chill, because you would have forgotten the moment as soon as it passed. She does not forget anything. Not because she is bitter, but because forgetting is a luxury given to people already safe. Later, as you carry away the cold tea, you ask before you can stop yourself, do you plan to punish them all? The princess looks toward the window, where lantern light trembles in the dark courtyard. No, she says. Punishment is expensive. Most people destroy themselves if you only let them believe no one is watching. Then she turns back to the page, and you realize the palace has underestimated the wrong woman for far too long. Level 6, the Quiet Alliance. The princess does not build her first alliance with generals, ministers, or noble families. She builds it with people no one remembers to fear. Your first errand is to the medicine room, where the air is thick with dried herbs, bitter roots, and steam rising from black clay bowls. You carry a small bundle of used tea leaves, something so worthless that no guard stops you to inspect it. The woman waiting there is a female physician's assistant with tired eyes and ink stains on her fingers. She takes the bundle, opens it, and finds a narrow strip of paper hidden beneath the leaves. She reads it once, burns it over a candle, then gives you a packet of harmless medicine for the princess's weak sleep. Her voice remains flat when she says, "Tell Her Highness the old injury belongs to the Queen's nephew, not the border envoy." You do not understand the message, but you remember every word. The second errand takes you to the laundry court, where an elderly maid folds plain cloth with hands twisted by years of work. She does not bow to you. She only asks whether the princess still drinks her tea without sugar. When you say yes, the old woman nods as if confirming more than taste. The third errand takes you to a disgraced clerk in the small archive, a man who once served in the main records hall before offending the wrong family. He gives you a list of banquet seating changes from 3 years ago, wrapped inside a torn prayer sheet. By the time you return, the moon is high, and your sleeves carry no treasure, no weapons, no royal seals, only fragments. A name. An old injury. A seating chart. A woman who remembers tea. A clerk who remembers humiliation. The princess listens to all of it in silence. Then she places each fragment on her table like pieces of a broken mirror. Powerful people hide things in official records, she says. Forgotten people hide them in memory. You look at the scraps and finally understand her method. She is not gathering servants because they are weak. She is gathering them because the palace has been careless around them for years. They have washed the robes, carried the medicine, cleaned the floors, copied the records, and heard the truths powerful people thought were too small to matter. The third princess has no army, no favored marriage, no loud faction behind her. But as the night deepens and the names on her table begin to connect, you realize she has something quieter, every ignored person who still remembers being ignored. Level 7, the Unseen Trap. The trap is set during a small palace banquet that no one considers important. That is why it works. The queen's nephew hosts it in the Western Hall, pretending it is only a polite gathering for minor royals, visiting officials, and court women with too much perfume and too little patience. The third princess is invited late, almost as an insult, and seated near the lower end of the room where the lantern light is weaker. You stand behind her with the tea servants, invisible enough to hear everything and low enough that no one bothers to guard their tongues. Music plays softly. Sweet wine is poured. The air smells of roasted chestnuts, incense, and expensive powder. Across the hall, the queen's nephew laughs too loudly while telling a story about weak branches on a royal tree. Everyone understands the insult. The princess only lowers her eyes and lifts her cup as if the joke has passed over her head. Then you place the blue-patterned cup beside her instead of the white one, exactly as instructed. A tiny signal. Across the room, the female physician's assistant notices. The elderly laundry maid, serving folded napkins near the side wall, notices too. The disgraced clerk, now temporarily called back to copy guest names, lowers his brush. One by one, the forgotten people become still. The queen's nephew continues speaking, pleased by his own cruelty. He mentions a hunting accident from years ago, then laughs and says some injuries are useful when they teach ambitious men to kneel. The room laughs with him. But the physician's assistant sets down her tray. An old injury, my lord, she asks softly. The hall quiets. The nephew's smile tightens. The clerk looks up and adds, was that before or after the banquet seating was changed? No one understands at first. Then the princess raises her eyes. She does not accuse him. She does not stand. She simply repeats a name from 3 years ago, a border envoy who was blamed for something that never belonged to him. The nephew's face changes before his mouth can deny it. That is enough. Not proof for a trial, perhaps, but enough for fear. Enough for whispers. Enough for every person in the room to realize the forgotten princess has not been sleeping in her faded palace. She has been listening. As the banquet continues in broken silence, you understand the trap was never meant to destroy him in one night. It was meant to make the court wonder what else she knows. Level 8, they begin to fear her. After the banquet, the palace does not change loudly. It changes in the pauses. Servants stop laughing when the third princess passes. Court ladies lower their voices sooner. Minor officials who once walked past her gate without slowing now bow with careful depth, not too low to seem afraid, not too shallow to seem insulting. Fear in the palace is rarely honest at first. It arrives disguised as better manners. You notice it while carrying her writing box through the red corridor toward the side council hall, a place she has never been invited before. The summons is not grand. No drums. No formal escort. Just a folded message delivered by a nervous clerk who refuses to meet her eyes. But the meaning is clear, after years of being ignored, she is now someone the court must calculate. Inside the council hall, the queen's nephew stands near the window, his face pale with controlled anger. 2 ministers sit beside him. A senior court lady from the queen's household watches from behind a screen. They do not accuse the princess directly. That would give her too much importance. Instead, they speak of harmony, proper conduct, and the danger of careless rumors. The princess listens with her hands folded, wearing pale silk again, almost the same color as before. Almost. This time, the collar is darker. The hairpin sharper. The stillness heavier. One minister says, "Your Highness must be careful." Even silence can be misunderstood. The princess looks at him and replies, "Then perhaps people should be more careful about what they say in rooms they believe are empty." No one speaks. You stand behind her, holding the writing box, and feel every eye move toward you. They are beginning to understand that her power is not in one secret. It is in the possibility that every servant, maid, clerk, and guard they ever ignored may have become her memory. The queen's nephew tries to smile. "You have grown bold." The princess turns to him calmly. "No. You have grown attentive." That cuts deeper. Boldness can be punished. Attention cannot. When she leaves the hall, no one laughs. In the corridor, you walk behind her as before, but the distance between you and the palace has changed. Yesterday, they saw you as the servant of a weak woman. Today, they wonder what you have heard. And for the first time, a minister steps aside before she reaches him. Level 9, no more smiling. That night, the princess does not return to the forgotten palace as the same woman who left it. The residence is still quiet. The curtains are still faded. The lanterns still burn lower than they do in the main halls. But something has shifted around her, invisible and heavy, like the air before a storm. You follow her into the private study, carrying the writing box, and place it beside the bronze mirror. She does not sit at once. She stands near the table, looking down at the names she has gathered over months: the queen's nephew, the silver-combed court lady, the minister who pretends to be kind, the clerk who lost his position, the maid who remembers every drawer, the physician's assistant who knows which injuries were hidden under official lies. The map is no longer just a record of insult. It has become a weapon. A sealed letter arrives before midnight. The queen's nephew has requested permission to leave the capital for rest. Everyone knows what that means. He is afraid. He wants distance before her silence becomes accusation. You expect her to smile, even slightly. She does not. Instead, she asks you to bring a fresh sheet of paper. Her brush hovers above it for a long moment. "If I let him leave," she says, "he will carry fear with him and poison another court against me." You keep your eyes low. "And if you stop him? Then everyone will know I can." That is the danger. Not revenge, but display. You realize power does not begin when people fear you. It begins when you must decide how much fear to allow. She writes one sentence, folds the paper, and seals it with plain wax. No royal decoration. No dramatic order. Just a quiet request that the nephew remain in the capital until old records are reviewed. You understand the cruelty of it. She does not destroy him. She makes him wait. Waiting gives fear room to grow. When you carry the message out, you pass a polished screen and see her reflection behind you. For the first time, the princess looks older than she did that morning. Not in face, but in stillness. She has won something, but victory has taken something too. The woman they mocked is gone. In her place stands someone who no longer needs to be loved by the court, only remembered before anyone dares to laugh. Level 10, beside her. By dawn, the third princess is no longer the woman the palace forgets to name. She walks through the red corridor toward the main court with you 2 steps behind her, carrying the same writing box you once thought was filled with harmless paper. The servants bow before she reaches them. The guards stand straighter. Court ladies who used to smile behind their sleeves now lower their eyes early, as if respect can erase memory. The palace has not given her a crown, an army, or a title strong enough to frighten anyone by itself. What she has is worse. She has made everyone wonder what she remembers. In the side court, ministers wait beneath carved beams and gold-painted screens. The queen's nephew stands among them, pale from a sleepless night, his mouth closed for once. The princess enters in a robe darker than anything she has worn before, not black, not royal red, but deep blue like the sky before a storm. She does not look triumphant. That is what makes the room afraid. A person drunk on victory can be flattered, distracted, provoked. A person this calm has already decided what matters. The senior minister invites her to sit closer to the inner table, a place she would never have been offered 1 month ago. She accepts without thanking him too much. Then the discussion begins: border taxes, household appointments, missing records, quiet corrections to older decisions. Nothing sounds dramatic. No one says the word punishment. No one says revenge. But every name she speaks changes the temperature of the room. A clerk is restored to the records office. A physician's assistant is assigned to review old injury reports. A court lady with a silver comb is transferred away from the Queen's private corridor. The Queen's nephew is asked, politely, to remain in the capital until the old matter is fully understood. Every order is wrapped in courtesy. Every courtesy lands like a locked door. You stand behind her, silent, and understand the final lesson: power does not always roar when it arrives. Sometimes it enters as memory, sits down at the table, and lets guilty people recognize themselves. When the council ends, the ministers bow. This time, not because etiquette demands it, but because they are careful. As you follow her back through the corridor, the princess pauses beside the old gate of her forgotten residence. The faded curtains move in the morning air. The flower pots are still cracked. The courtyard is still smaller than the grand palaces beyond it. But it no longer feels abandoned. It feels hidden. She looks at the place where everyone once believed ambition came to die. They thought silence meant weakness, she says. You think of the first morning, the lazy guards, the laughing court ladies, the pale robe, the quiet page turning in her hand. No, you answer. It meant you were listening. For the first time, she almost smiles, but it does not last. Victory has not made her soft. It has not healed the years of being dismissed, laughed at, and placed at the edge of power like a decorative mistake. It has only given her the ability to answer. And you, the servant sent to a dead-end palace, have become the man who knows how carefully she built that answer. You began by carrying tea for a forgotten princess. Now ministers watch your hands because they wonder what message you carry next. The court once underestimated her because she was quiet, pale, and patient. Now they fear her for the same reasons. That is the cold truth of the palace: sometimes the person everyone ignores is not powerless. Sometimes she is simply learning the room before she decides where to place the knife. If you want to enter another hidden royal court story from the lowest servant to the highest shadow, comment which palace we should enter next.